Schrödinger's cat and pharaohs, or ancient gods understood quanta better. The riddle of being both dead and alive. Imagine standing before a sealed box, your hand trembling over the latch. Inside, a cat waits, neither dead nor alive, but both at once, suspended in a ghostly dance of possibility. This is Schrödinger's cat, the quantum paradox that haunts modern science. But what if this isn't a new riddle? What if, thousands of years ago, priests in torchlit temples and pharaohs gazing at star-dusted skies wrestled with the same mystery, not in equations, but in myths of gods who shift, transform, and exist in multiple states at once? Could the ancients have grasped the quantum nature of reality, not through microscopes, but through the lens of their gods? Let's step into the shadows of history and science to find out. The mythic foundation, gods who are many and one. In the sun-scorched sands of ancient Egypt, the god Osiris ruled as both king and corpse, life and death entwined. Murdered by his brother Set, dismembered and scattered across the Nile, Osiris was reassembled by his wife Isis, only to rise again, not fully alive, not fully dead, but a ruler of the underworld, a paradox embodied. To the Egyptians, Osiris was not one state or another, but a superposition of both, a being who transcended the binary of existence. The Egyptian concept of transformation went even deeper. Consider Thoth, the ibis-headed god of wisdom, who simultaneously existed as a man, a bird, and pure consciousness. In the Book of the Dead, the deceased must navigate multiple forms of existence, their ka or life force, be or personality, and ak or transformed spirit. These weren't sequential states, but coexisting aspects of being, much like quantum particles existing in multiple energy levels simultaneously. The Egyptian creation myth of Atum further illustrates this principle. Before creation, Atum existed in the primordial waters of Nun, not as something or nothing, but as pure potential. Through an act of will, Atum brought forth Shu, air, and Tefnut, moisture, by speaking or spitting. The myths vary because the act itself transcends singular description. This moment mirrors quantum field theory, where particles emerge from probability waves in a vacuum that isn't empty, but pregnant with possibility. Travel east to the Indus Valley, where the Vedic hymns of ancient India speak of Brahman, the cosmic unity that is both everything and nothing. In the Rig Veda, the universe is born from a question. What was there before the beginning? The answer is neither form nor void, but a state of potential, where opposites coexist in a shimmering haze. The gods like Indra or Agni flicker between forms, now a warrior, now a flame, now a whisper in the mind, never fixed, always transforming. The Vedic concept of lila, divine play, suggests that reality itself is a cosmic game where gods assume different roles and forms for the sheer joy of experience. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita reveals himself to Arjuna as simultaneously the cowherd, the prince, the destroyer of worlds, and the infinite cosmos. I am time, the destroyer and creator, he declares, embodying the quantum principle that observation determines which aspect of reality we witness. Even in Mesopotamia, the goddess Inanna descends to the underworld, shedding her divine aspects at each gate, becoming mortal, dead, and then reborn. Her story is not linear but cyclical, a dance of states that mirrors the quantum idea of superposition, the ability of a system to exist in multiple realities until observed. The Sumerian poem Inanna's Descent describes her stripping away 7 aspects of her divine nature: crown, beads, rod, breastplate, gold ring, lapis measuring rod, and royal robe. Each removal doesn't diminish her, but reveals another layer of being. When she emerges from death, she carries the power of all her states, goddess, mortal, corpse, and resurrection, simultaneously. These myths aren't just stories. They're maps of a reality where boundaries blur, where the self is not singular but plural, where existence is a question, not an answer. But how could ancient cultures, without particle accelerators or wave functions, intuit something so close to the strangest truths of modern physics? The scientific deep dive, Schrödinger's cat, and the quantum veil. Fast forward to 1935, when Austrian physicist Erwin Schrödinger proposed a thought experiment to expose what he saw as the absurdity of quantum mechanics. Picture a cat inside a sealed box, along with a vial of poison, a Geiger counter, and a radioactive atom. If the atom decays, the Geiger counter triggers, the vial breaks, and the cat dies. If the atom doesn't decay, the cat lives. Quantum mechanics tells us the atom is in a superposition, both decayed and not decayed, until observed. According to the mathematical formalism, the cat too must be both dead and alive until you open the box and look. The wave function describing the system contains both possibilities simultaneously, weighted by their probabilities. This isn't just a quirky puzzle, it's a dagger aimed at the heart of reality. Quantum superposition suggests that particles, electrons, photons, quarks exist in multiple states simultaneously, described by a mathematical entity called a wave function. Only when measured does the wave function collapse into one definite state. But what counts as measurement? Who or what decides the outcome, and why does the act of observing change reality itself? The mathematics is precise but philosophically unsettling. The Schrödinger equation describes how quantum systems evolve over time, but it's deterministic. Given an initial state, the wave function's evolution is perfectly predictable. The mystery lies in the collapse. Somehow, the smooth, continuous evolution of possibilities suddenly snaps into a single reality when we observe it. The Copenhagen interpretation, championed by Niels Bohr, argues that the collapse is real. Observation forces nature to choose. The wave function represents the complete description of reality before measurement, and the collapse is a fundamental feature of nature, not just our ignorance. But this interpretation raises uncomfortable questions. What defines a measurement? Is human consciousness required, or does any interaction with the environment count? Others, like the many worlds interpretation proposed by Hugh Everett III, suggest that every possible outcome happens, splitting reality into parallel universes, one where the cat lives, another where it dies. In this view, the wave function never collapses. Instead, the universe branches into multiple realities, each equally real. We experience only one branch, but infinite versions of ourselves experience all possible outcomes. Meanwhile, theories like Cubism, quantum Bayesianism, propose that the wave function isn't a description of reality, but a reflection of our knowledge, a kind of Bayesian bet on what we'll observe next. The collapse represents an update in our information, not a change in the system itself. This interpretation makes the observer central to quantum mechanics in a profound way. Reality becomes a relationship between the observer and the observed. Recent experiments have made these questions more pressing, not less. Quantum entanglement, what Einstein dismissed as spooky action at a distance, has been verified countless times. When particles become entangled, measuring one instantly affects the other, regardless of the distance between them. This suggests that either information travels faster than light, violating relativity, or reality is fundamentally non-local, with no objective facts independent of observation. These debates aren't abstract philosophy. They challenge our deepest assumptions about existence. If reality is undefined until observed, what is the universe when no one's looking? And if consciousness plays a role in collapsing the wave function, does that mean mind and matter are entangled at the root of being? Now let's pause. Schrödinger's cat isn't just a modern conundrum. It's a mirror reflecting ancient questions. Osiris, Inanna, Brahman. These figures embody the same paradox. Existence as a superposition, a state of potential that defies our need for certainty. But how could myths and quanta align so eerily? Bridging concepts. The observer in the temple. To build a bridge between ancient gods and quantum cats, we need to explore the role of the observer. In quantum mechanics, observation isn't passive. It's an act of participation, a moment where the universe seems to respond to the one who asks. This idea resonates powerfully with ancient worldviews, where humans weren't separate from the cosmos but woven into its very fabric. In Egyptian mythology, the act of naming was sacred and creative. To name a god or thing was to bring it into being, to collapse its potential into form. The Memphis creation myth describes Ptah, the god of craftsmen, creating the world through speech, his words shaping chaos into order. Whatever the heart thought and the tongue commanded became reality. This isn't far from the quantum idea that measurement defines reality. The priest in the temple, chanting Osiris's name, wasn't just honouring a god but participating in his existence, holding him in a state of divine superposition. The Egyptian concept of Heka, divine magic, was fundamentally about the power of consciousness to shape reality. Pharaohs weren't just rulers, they were active participants in maintaining cosmic order, mayat, through ritual and will. Their mortuary texts describe the deceased learning to speak reality into being in the afterlife, mastering the same creative force that gods wielded. This parallels quantum mechanics' suggestion that consciousness plays a fundamental role in determining what becomes real. In Vedic philosophy, the concept of Maya, the illusion of the material world, suggests that reality is a projection of consciousness. The Upanishads describe the self, Atman, as both distinct from and identical to the cosmic whole, Brahman. The famous equation Tattvamasi, thou art that, implies that the observer and the observed are ultimately one. To realize this unity is to become an observer who sees through the illusion, recognizing the world not as fixed, but as a play of possibilities. The Mandukya Upanishad describes 4 states of consciousness: waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and turiya, the 4th state. In turiya, the observer transcends the subject-object duality, experiencing reality as pure awareness without content. This state mirrors what some quantum theorists call the view from nowhen, a perspective outside the normal flow of measurement and collapse, where all possibilities coexist. Even the Greek philosopher Heraclitus, in the 5th century before the Common Era, intuited this fluidity. "No man steps in the same river twice," he said, "for it's not the same river, and he's not the same man." Heraclitus saw reality as pantarei, everything flows, a process, not a state. His vision aligns perfectly with the quantum world, where particles aren't things but events, probabilities dancing until pinned down by observation. Heraclitus also spoke of the unity of opposites, how seemingly contradictory forces are actually aspects of a deeper harmony. "The path that leads up and down are one and the same," he wrote. This captures the essence of quantum complementarity, where particles can be waves and particles simultaneously, depending on how we choose to observe them. The Norse tradition offers another compelling parallel. Odin, the All-Father, sacrifices his eye for wisdom and hangs himself from the world tree to gain knowledge of the runes. In these myths, understanding requires the observer to fundamentally change, to participate in the mystery rather than remain separate from it. Odin's ravens, Hugin and Munin, thought and memory, fly across all 9 worlds each day, returning with information that shapes reality itself. These traditions suggest that the ancients didn't see the world as solid or singular. Their gods were not static idols, but dynamic processes, existing in multiple states, much like quantum systems. Their rituals, naming, chanting, sacrifice, were acts of measurement, ways to collapse the divine into the human, the infinite into the particular. But what does this mean for us, living in a world of particles and pixels? Speculative expansion. Are we gods in a cosmic superposition? Let's venture into stranger territory. If quantum superposition and ancient myths both point to a reality that's fluid, plural, and observer-dependent, what might that imply about consciousness itself? Could we be living in our own superposition, our minds entangled with the universe, collapsing possibilities with every thought? One bold idea gaining traction is panpsychism, the notion that consciousness is a fundamental property of reality, present in everything from electrons to stars. If consciousness is universal, then every quantum event might involve a kind of observation, a flicker of awareness that collapses the wave function. The Egyptian priests invoking Osiris might have been intuitively correct. The universe doesn't exist without someone or something to witness it. Philosopher David Chalmers has argued that consciousness might be as fundamental as mass or charge, a basic feature of reality that can't be reduced to purely physical processes. If so, the wave function collapse might not require human observers, but could happen whenever conscious entities at any level interact with quantum systems. This would make consciousness not an emergent property of complex brains, but a ground-level feature of the cosmos. Another intriguing possibility emerges from digital physics and the simulation hypothesis. If reality is fundamentally informational, as some quantum theorists like John Wheeler suggested with his it from bit principle, then the universe might be a vast computation, with superposition as its method for running multiple calculations simultaneously. The myths of gods shifting forms could be metaphors for subroutines, their transformations reflecting the branching paths of a cosmic program. In this view, our role as observers might be to render the simulation, our minds serving as the interface between quantum code and experienced reality. Each measurement would be like a database query, forcing the universe to return specific values from its probability distributions. The ancient practice of divination, reading patterns in animal entrails, casting lots, interpreting dreams, might have been early attempts to query this cosmic database directly. Or perhaps the multiverse is real, and Hugh Everett's many worlds interpretation captures something profound about existence. Every choice, every quantum event, might split reality into parallel branches, creating infinite versions of ourselves. The Vedic idea of samsara, endless cycles of birth and rebirth, could hint at this branching structure, with each life representing a different path through the quantum multiverse. If the multiverse is real, then free will takes on new meaning. We might not choose which universe we experience, but our choices could determine which branch of reality we follow. The Norse concept of weird, often translated as fate, but better understood as the web of interconnected causes and effects, captures this idea beautifully. We're not passive victims of determinism, but active participants in weaving reality's pattern. Quantum entanglement adds another layer to this speculation. If consciousness can become entangled with quantum systems, then our minds might be non-locally connected to the cosmos in ways we're only beginning to understand. The ancient shamanic practice of traveling between worlds, accessing different levels of reality through altered states of consciousness, might reflect a genuine ability to navigate quantum superpositions. Some researchers have proposed that quantum effects in microtubules within neurons could give consciousness access to quantum superposition and entanglement. While this remains highly speculative, it opens the possibility that human consciousness might directly interface with quantum reality. Our thoughts and intentions might literally collapse wave functions, making us co-creators of the universe we experience. These ideas push the boundaries of both science and philosophy, but they echo the ancient impulse to ask, who are we? Why are we here? The ancients answered with stories of gods who are many and one. Modern science answers with equations that sing of possibilities. Both invite us to see ourselves as part of a mystery stranger than we can fully grasp. Reflective close. The veil that haunts us. Stand again before Schrödinger's box. Your hand hovers over the latch, trembling not with fear but with recognition. Open it, and the cat is alive, or dead. The quantum wave function collapses into certainty, possibility becomes actuality, and the cosmic dance pauses for one crystalline moment of knowing. But what if the box is never opened? What if the cat remains forever in its ghostly state, neither one nor the other, a whisper of what might be? In that sealed space, free from observation, the cat exists in pure potentiality, every possible life unlived, every possible death undied, suspended in the quantum foam of maybe. Now imagine Osiris in his tomb, Inanna at the threshold of the underworld, Brahman before the first breath of creation. They too exist in that liminal space, their forms shifting with the gaze of those who seek them. They are gods of the maybe, deities of the not yet, guardians of the eternal possibility that observation might collapse into reality. The ancients didn't know quantum mechanics, but they knew the weight of questions that have no final answers. They felt the pull of a reality that refuses to be pinned down, a cosmos that breathes with possibility. Their myths were not explanations but explorations, not answers but invitations to dive deeper into mystery. We live in an age of measurement, of data and certainty. Yet the quantum world reminds us that nothing is truly fixed until we look, and even then, it depends on how we choose to see. The ancient temple and the modern laboratory are both sacred spaces where observers encounter the fundamental strangeness of existence. Consider this. Every moment of your life you are making quantum choices, collapsing infinite possibilities into the singular thread of your experience. Every decision is an act of observation, every thought a measurement that shapes reality. You are simultaneously the observer and the observed, the question and the answer, the cat and the one opening the box. Are we singular beings moving through linear time, or are we superpositions of possibility, existing simultaneously across infinite versions of ourselves? The ancient myths suggest we are both, individual souls carrying the spark of universal consciousness. temporary forms through which the cosmos observes itself. As the stars wheel above in their eternal dance, remember that they too exist in quantum superposition until observed. Every photon that reaches your eye has travelled for years or millennia in a state of pure possibility, only becoming real when it strikes your retina and registers in your consciousness. You're not separate from the cosmos, but woven into its quantum fabric, an essential thread in reality's tapestry. The veil between ancient wisdom and quantum truth grows thinner with each passing day. Perhaps the priests were right. Consciousness and cosmos are entangled at the deepest level. Perhaps the physicists are right. Reality depends on observation in ways we're only beginning to understand. Or perhaps both are glimpsing the same truth from different angles, that existence itself is the greatest mystery, stranger, and more beautiful than either myths or mathematics alone can capture. So what will you see when you open your own box? What possibilities will you collapse into reality with your next choice, your next breath, your next moment of awareness? The quantum cat purrs with anticipation, the ancient gods smile knowingly, and the universe waits, poised between all possible futures for you to decide what becomes real. If this journey through time and possibility has moved you, share it with others who might find wonder in the connection between ancient wisdom and quantum strangeness. And tell us, do you think the ancients intuited something about reality that we're only now rediscovering? Or are we at last catching up to truths their gods have always known?